Hi everyone, I'm Alvin from Hensel AMS. Today we want to talk about event data tracking. Lots to tell, let's go to the whiteboard. So, event data tracking. What do we actually want? So we have a client, let's call him like shop.com, and they have users which interacting with their website. So these users come to the website and they have multiple page views. And what we want actually is to track all these events and store them in a database. We want to track all events. So here we want to have like the raw data, everything what happens we want to know. So we want to know like how does someone come to the website, what products is someone looking at, what pages, what events happens on the website, and to have all this information. And we don't want this like for one user, we want this for all users. Two more things. This database lives in a cloud account, and usually it's like an AWS, Amazon Cloud, or like GCP, the Google Cloud, or Azure, the Microsoft Cloud. But important is that this cloud account does not belong to Hensel AMS. This belongs to our client. All of our clients, they give us access to some cloud account. There we set up the whole tracking up and also the attribution system later. But because what we want is not that we collect client data, we want to enable our clients that they are able to get information of how their customers interact with their website. So the total data ownership and the full control of the data lays with our client. Also, we have no information like who personally, individual is behind this person. What we know, it's just an anonymous user with a random string ID ABC, and this is a XYZ. We are not interested if that is Alvin here or that is Juan. The only interesting for us is like a certain user, ABC, has this behavior. He interacts with the website like this, and he's very interested in these products. So we know that certain products have more interest and that we should put more marketing campaigns on this one, etc. Okay, how do we actually do this? So assume we have a user and they look up a site in the browser. And of course, it's the site of our client, shop.com. So usually nowadays, all sites have a tag manager. Most often it's like GTM, the Google Tag Manager, and via this tag manager, we place a tracking snippet, tracking JavaScript snippet into the website. And this allows us to send events into the cloud. Remember, here we have our cloud account. Let's assume now we have an AWS cloud account, and this belongs to our client, shop.com. It's not our account, it belongs to the client. And here we have some API gateway, then which receives all the events. Then we have some Lambda functions which enrich it, and then we write blocks of events into CSV files and store them at the file storage S3. On top of this one, so this is like the full raw events. In a minute we also look into them. And then we have like batch processes like an ETL process, extracts, transform, and load. And this one takes the data and writes it into a database, usually a MySQL database. And this database is set up that we can very fast answer any interesting questions regarding the customer journey analytics, the attribution, any question a marketeer or e-commerce person might have can be very fast answered with the setup of this database here. This tracking is because it happens in the browser of the client, called client-side tracking. There's another way to track, what we also do in parallel, and that is via the web server. So all websites are served from a web server, and they are serving, for example, if the client wants to see like page1.html, this web server serves this page via the internet to the browser of the client, so that it can be rendered and seen here, or some content on the page is like given to the browser so that they can show the content on the page. We can also set up an event tracking on the web server, and this is called like server-side tracking. And it has some advantages to have also the server-side tracking. For example, the tracking in the browser heavily depends on the browser. So some modern browsers have like ITP, internal tracking preventions, and some tracking scripts are not executed. Also, there can be some cases where like different scripts are conflicting and the tracking is not executed here. So the client-side tracking has usually more information than the server-side tracking because it's in the client already, so we're closer to the customer and what they see, but it's not 100% reliable. On the other hand, the server-side tracking is 100% reliable, has some limited information. We are actually working with both sides to have the best view on what really happens with the interaction with the client. Remember, we don't know who individual this is. We only know that it's like an anonymous person and that is his or her interaction with the website. Also, if our client job.com has an app, we can very easily also put events from the app in the tracking. Last but not least, there's one further thing. What we can also track and do track for clients is if the clients have like banner. So they have a banner ad, and this banner ad is shown on third-party sites like news.com. We can put some non-JavaScript tracking, non-JS tracking into these banners, and this allows us to see some receive some limited information that a user saw a banner and maybe which banner it was. We don't know what happens on the rest on this website because we cannot track there, but we can track our banner and we can track what happens on the website and what happens in the app. And this is of course very important when we want to know like the performance of banners, because usually people don't click on a banner, but they see a banner and they come quite later than like 1-2 hours later to the website. Okay, so before we jump into the system, let's make a step back and remember what we want. So let's assume we have a customer journey with a session. So someone comes to the website and has some page views, and then 2 days later the customer comes back, has some page views, and then let's say 3 days later, the customer sees some banner, and this was a site event, was an on-site event, and let's say 6 hours later, the customer comes back to the website, and we may even have a conversion. So at the end of the session, the customer buys something. So a sale happened. So now, of course, we want to understand that is the customer journey. That is the interaction of the end customer with our client's website, shop.com. We want to understand like how does the customer interact? What traffic sources he was using? What the impact was of them? What product he was comparing, etc. So actually the core of our customer journey is session. So each of these blocks, the time blocks, are sessions. And the customer journey is actually the collection of all sessions which belong to one customer. And the interesting info, what we're having, the info is what we want, is of course the traffic sources. The traffic, so the channel, the UTM tags, or any other marketing tags on how someone comes to the website. For example, the information of the ad group for Google Ads, or the keyword, or like which position an ad was clicked. All this information is of course super interesting for us. Definitely which pages. Most important is usually in marketing questions is the landing page. Which landing page and how was the landing page performing? Then also which products. So what products is someone looking? What products is someone searching for, comparing? And plus also events. What product is someone putting into the basket? With what product is someone starting the checkout process? Also the cost is very important for us also. So how expensive was to get a user at this session to the website. And of course also some user IDs. So user IDs is like the cookies, of course, but we also track like user IDs from third parties if they set them, or like hashes of the IP address, etc. So we have multiple ways to identify user, or for example when they logged in, and of course some stats like how many page views in total, how many page views in the checkout area, how many page views in the detail, product detail area or product search area. So you see, that's all the important information we will need to answer a lot of questions. At its core, let's put a different color, is always the session. So therefore, when we now jump into the database, the core of our database is always a session table. And this one has like informations on the timing, the traffic IDs, and also some stats. So here we find like when something happened, how does someone come to the site. We have like 10 parameters which describe how someone can come to the site. So the channel IDs, it's all the UTMs like a source, medium, content, term, and plus multiple other IDs like click IDs also, which describe how someone comes to the site, plus also some stats like how long was the session time-wise, how many total page views or page views in the checkout area. Then we can link this, of course, to the traffic info, the real names. So for example, like it was in the email channel and the campaign was a newsletter October campaign, or like what was the name of the ad group behind this session. Also, what was potential costs? So we have what was the cost of this session? Then also the landing pages, the product seen. So a collection of all products seen in this session, and also the time order, or also what events are happening. There was a banner pop-up, on the on-site banner pop-up what the customer saw, how it's directed to this one. And of course we link then to this object also the user IDs. IDs, what we saw in this session for that user. So was he logged in? Then we have usually a client customer ID also. Or was he coming via an email? Then quite often you have in the links from emails, you have also like a hash of the user IDs, and you also have the user ID, etc. I put now on the other side the attribution. Results. So it's IHC results. This is a different table which links to the sessions. So of course here we have the evaluation of the impact of the session. And now with this general concept of the setup of our database, we can answer all possible questions. We can answer like what traffic sources, how many attribution was there in a certain time frame, what was there, what cost was with it. Wait, I missed of course a conversions table. And this one links also here, and here we have also, of course, information on the revenue and what kind of product was bought. So we can make all kind of analysis here with these setups, that we can put the landing pages in the report, or the costs, what products are seen, and the traffic information, and links this over the session to the attribution results. Very important is one point here, it's the user IDs. We have a user matching algorithm which works in all this data, and this finds out that, for example, the user ABC and the user XYZ are actually the same user. It is like one user. Let's say here is like ABC, 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 but of course people delete sometimes the cookies in the browser, or they come with different devices. By this algorithm, we find out that actually the first interaction for that customer was seen under the cookie XYZ. The whole idea is that we really can build up the full customer journey of one user to really understand all the interactions they have via marketing channels and also with the products seen on site. Let's jump into some live demo. So here we are at a website of our client. I opened the developer tools in Chrome, and here you see the event tracking as we send it from the site to our cloud account. And let's now start a small customer journey. So we select a BMW, and now we see the product searches. You see on the right side that events are happening. Let's go for 3R. And let's select no product here. You see that when I do more with the site, more events are sent to the cloud. And we see that we have here the events, and now I'm on site. Now I can configure a bit the leasing deal. First is 48 months. If I'm now checking something with 24 months, the price changes, and we also send this information up into the cloud. Now let's jump into the cloud view. These are my events for my cookie ID. And here we see like a selection of the events what we are tracking. So actually our tracking framework is based on Snowplow, the open source version of Snowplow. We enhanced it a bit to configure more to work better with our analytics system, but the core is Snowplow tracking. So I think you have like 30-40 different dimensions which are tracked. I only show here like a small selection. So for every event we have the timestamp, we have the page URL path, we know which browser the customer was on, so I'm using Chrome on a Windows computer, and then we have the data layer event, and here we get all the data layer events with the name, and then also with the parameter, which are with the products what the customer saw. Okay, and these are the CSV files. Here is everything in the raw data what was tracked in the MySQL database. We enrich it and put it in the format where we have multiple tables to zoom in and make queries by multiple dimensions to answer all the interesting questions of our client's teams. And for example, here I zoomed in into one customer journey, and here we see we have like the sessions, they happen all in July. The timing, we know which type it was. C means it's a site visit for click, and I it's an impression. So here we have one banner impression on the third-party side. Everything was on a mobile. We see the count page views. Of course, the banner impression has no page view. And also the count of page views on detail pages, count of page views in checkout pages. Actually, we see that this customer journey is made up by multiple users. Here the user is frequently changing actually his cookies. And here from the 25th, we have that quite stable one on that day. Therefore, it's very important to have a very smart user matching algorithm. Actually, on the 25th, this user made a conversion with a revenue of 147. And it was made via, because conversion was in login area, we know the hash of the client customer ID, and we also have, we know it was a browser mobile on Android. Now, of course, we can zoom in with the attribution results for all the sessions, and we see as an initializer attribution, actually the banner session has earned 7% of the initializer attribution. And so here's the initializer, the holder, the closer, and of course the combined IHC attributions. You see that some sessions have like no attribution and some are definitely stronger than others. Now, of course, that is one individual customer journey, but we can have an aggregated view. Here I filtered on one day, and we have the results per channel, per device type, desktop or mobile. And we have for new users or returning users, and then the attributed conversions for them. So in total, say a non-brand made on desktop on that day 20 conversions. Most of them, like 14.4% attributed conversions coming from new customers, and only 5.6% come from returning customers. Or we can jump in a different view.
where we see like per day what kind of products a customer was looking at, what prices they saw, and what they compared. Also, we can zoom in, they have a report by landing pages, how many attributed conversions, how many influence conversions, and also zooming again in for one customer. And now we linked information in like not just the channel, but also the SEA ad group ID. Of course, like the email session has no ad group, but also the session cost. So what was the cost of this session? What did our client paid here? And what was the page views in this one, etc. Important is of course to have this user matching. Here we have the results. We put like one cookie ID in, and we find that this cookie ID actually, this user is also matching to another cookie ID. And actually we have two reasons for matching them. One is by custom ID, so in the login area with a high percent, like 100% linking probability. And the same cookie was also matched by a hash of an IP with 75%. So for this customer, we know actually one customer, two cookie IDs belong to one customer. With all this information, we can have a very good view on all detail levels customer might want to have in their reporting for marketing analytics or product analytics.
So, I hope you enjoyed the event tracking talk. If you have questions, please contact us. We are happy to discuss things further with you. Next up in our series will be the usage of IHC Attribution Insights. As usual, if you like it, please subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Bye, bis bald.